Welcome, guys, to another episode of The Candy Show. I'm your host, Candy. We have another special guest in the building. Guys, I want you to welcome the original G Man of hip hop, but he also has some things he want to tell us about. We have not spoke, have not seen each other in years. So we're just going to do a little catching up and see what Mr. Original G Man of hip hop has been doing. So, guys, welcome my guest today. Yay! Welcome, welcome,
Hey,
welcome.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so now I already spoke. We haven't seen each other in years, and to be honest, I think it was about 2018 that I seen you. It was backstage for a hip hop concert. Kind of briefly say hello, but it's really been a long time since I really seen you and actually had a chance to talk to you. Where you been at?
Yeah. Oh man, I've been everywhere. I've been doing so much, and traveling and doing shows and movies, and I'm just blessed right now.
Okay, well, let's get on into it. The original G Man of hip hop. So first, let's start and talk about a little bit about your projects that you have right now. You have a movie. You also have some other things going on, but and we're gonna get to the history in a minute. But let's talk about the movie. Mad as hell.
Wow, that movie is unique. Actually, it's premiering somewhere in California as we speak. I was looking at it online before I got on the interview here. It's on Tubi, it's on Hulu, it's on all the streaming outlets now on the streaming sites. It's titled Mad as Hell. My character is Mac Goldie. I run this whole syndicate called the G Men, for lack of a better term, and actually it seems as though it reminds you of Death Wish. If you remember Charles Bronson movie from back in the day called Death Wish, and it has a twist like Heat and The Godfather mixed together. And I'm playing Matt Goldie, so I'm running the city, if you will. And it's produced and directed and also co-starred in by Robert Parham, the five-time Grandmaster of the martial arts, you know what I mean, and black belt champion as well. It also stars Cinda Williams, who played in Mo Better Blues and quite a other few movies that she did that was pretty big and decent. And so that movie is just it's phenomenal. It's action packed, has a lot of twists and curves in there. I'm not gonna give it all away. You got to go see it. And that was actually my first movie that I'm starring in, and then I got other movies coming about, like the El Chapo movie called Prison, and where the drug lord El Chapo, the one that tunneled his way out of prison, and you have uh, Johnny Depp is playing El Chapo in the movie. Leonardo DiCaprio is playing an undercover agent. Me, Ice T, and Jesse the Body Ventura, if you remember him from wrestling, and the governor of California, I think he was, and we're playing DEA agents chasing El Chapo, and it's a lot more movies that's slated coming down. With this first movie, Mad as Hell, I won quite a bit of awards, best new actor in different categories like Sundance, uh, just a whole lot of the Swan movie, Independent Film Fest, and a whole lot of independent film festivals. I got a lot of awards for that. And for my first time acting, it kind of blew my mind. So I had to call one of my old buddies who was everybody know him as Fred the Hammer, Fred Williamson, and I called him up and I was like, "Is it normal that people win awards on their first time out?" He said, "Nah, I was like in my sixth movie before I even got my first award, and the fact that you got almost 10 awards is just phenomenal. It just says something to how I focus in on my craft and my art and being an artist and artistry."
Well, congratulations. I wouldn't have never thought that you were an actor or would have asked, especially how the last time I seen you, which we're gonna get into that. How did you meet the director and producer of the movie? How did you meet him?
Actually, through a mutual friend had mentioned me to him, and him to me, and he was a fan of mine. And everybody just started getting it. Now it's starting to get the information of me being the one who actually named hip hop. So Indianapolis, y'all didn't know y'all had a gym around y'all all that time when them years I lived in Indianapolis and all the big commercials and stuff I did down there, like the crazy Mickey commercials and all the stuff I did in Indianapolis and going to school there and all the people that I know there and from Indianapolis and I lived there for quite a while. And but I ran into him to Robert Parham, through a mutual friend, and he called me and he said, I'm such a big fan of your music and your legendary and your legacy that I'm writing a script specifically for you. And he called me, and the pandemic had hit, so it pushed a lot of things back, and called him back. And I was actually, I think I was in New Orleans at the time, Louisiana. I was in Louisiana, New Orleans. I was in Louisiana, and I was like stuck in certain cities at the time of the pandemic hitting, but I stayed in contact with him. So when I got to New Orleans, he was like, "Man, you guys got to come out." So they ended up chartering a flight for me, a jet for me to get out there to come out and start doing a movie. And as soon as I land, everything went on lockdown. So it was like I was stuck out there. So and it was fun though because I was everything I was taking care of. Everything was beautiful. And then eventually, like a month and a half, 2 months later, we ended up being able to shoot the movie, and the rest was history on that.
Well, I tell you what, I did have a chance to check it out. It was very interesting. I was like, I didn't know if you were the main character or if there was somebody else that was the main character. So that was a little twist for me, but I won't give it away. I just let everybody know, like you said, you need to go and check it out on Tubi. But let's talk a little bit about where I seen you at last, like really, really get to going in the history of the original G-Man because I've known you from G-Man and Friction. And first and foremost, let's find out where you're coming from today. Where are you at today?
Today I'm in Fort Lauderdale. I live like 15 minutes outside of Miami. Beautiful gated community. I'm just, I'm blessed. Beautiful, beautiful area. So I'm just blessed. So
Well, let's
I got
let's
my first grandbaby, so I'm kind of like, granddaddied out. And the last time I seen you, I think we was backstage at a concert or something like that. It wasn't in Indianapolis, by the way. I believe uh, it was the MC Light was on the show, and uh, I think the who else Cameo.
no,
It
no,
was
no, that was like a hip hop. It was a Too Short, Bun
oh
B,
yeah, yeah,
DJ
yeah. You're right.
Quick.
You're right. You're
Yeah,
right. You're right.
it was a
Yeah.
brief. It was a brief. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? That was about it. But no, we're talking about. We're gonna go all the way back now. Now we're gonna go all the
Oh,
way
going
back.
all the way back?
All
Oh
the way
man.
back. All the
Oh
way back.
yeah. Oh my
All the way.
goodness. I guess that was like that's so far. That's the guy Black Bill Shirt days back, way back.
Ooh, ooh. Because you have some history here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and the last time we spoke was actually when the Candy Show really started going back out and actually doing the video. So that was around 2009, if I'm not mistaken, and that was
Yeah,
a
roughly.
it was a concert series you were hosting, and that
Yeah.
was G-Man that I knew, and we talked a little bit on a previous episode of the Candy Show. But let's go a little bit further back there. First time I met you was I think 2002, 2003, and you
Yeah.
were on the mic, you were rapping, and that's when I knew you as Friction. We were in a video together, all of these
Yeah. Yeah.
things.
Yeah, that was my Midwest Monster character. Like me and a few other guys from Indianapolis, we took on these characters, and mine was I liked the Pinhead, and I knew Pinhead from the movie Hellraiser caused friction. Any two matters that rubbed together was controversial, caused friction. So I took on the persona of MC Friction, and the reason why I took on MC Friction was because I was actually going to be a part of. I was a part of Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. I was in that group, and I was getting ready to sign back to Sugar Hill Records, but under as a under the umbrella of another, whether it was the umbrella over another record label, which was called Bonamy Records, who Sylvia Robinson, who owned Sugar Hill, and Joseph Robinson Sr. owned Sugar Hill Records, and I was returning back there from way back from, you know, the Rappers Delight, Apache, and all Jam On and all that stuff, that nobody knew that I was a part of the Sugar Hill family. Nobody knew I was a part of that in Indianapolis, because I kind of stayed in my lane. And who would have believed that I was the man that actually named hip hop in 1975, even though I was one of the first rappers in Indianapolis, Indiana, because I lived in Zunieville way back in the day in the 80s. You know what I mean? And when I went back to Sugar Hill, they had G-Man that was a part of the Crash Crew, and they had Master G. They had that. They had so many G's on there. Almighty G was in Indianapolis. They had so many G's that my original name, God's Man, G-Man, at the time, you know, it was oversaturated with G. So I took on a persona of MC Friction for a while, and then lo and behold, you know, I had an epiphany, and you know, and the Lord spoke to me and said, it's time to go back to your original name, God's Man, which stands for, with G-Man stands for God's Man, and the G stands for God, and the bridge between the dash between the G and the M stands for the bridge between God and man. So that's where I went. I took my name back, G-Man, and I went and my legal name is the original G-Man of hip hop. And when you Google that, all that, everything about me comes up. You know what I mean? History, everything.
Well, I'm glad you stated that because I was going to ask you what did the G-Man stand for. But let's go all the way back again. Now, you just mentioned it. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with hip hop, because you have that in your name, and you mentioned something about being the one to name hip hop in
Yeah,
97
I actually got
75.
the yes, I actually got the affidavits now from hip hop historians and from people that's been in the entertainment industry for decades. And and lo and behold, I did not know that this hip hop historian until I found out, and the lawyers and everybody had contacted me, and they presented me the affidavits, and they was in the park in 1975 when I actually named hip hop in Brooklyn, New York, in Prospect Park on Parkside and Ocean Avenue in New York in 1975. This is, see, Rappers Alike came out in 1979 with the Sugar Hill Gang, but I went back to 75. Even DJ Cowboy was everybody is conflicted. When you got stars that are number one on the charts, and you try to say that, oh, I'm the one that started this, who would believe you? Nobody wouldn't believe you, because they're number one and you're not. You're struggling as an artist, and they're made it. They're doing their thing. So when they did all the history and went back into everything, it was a few people in the park the day that I told them, let's put it all under this thing called hip hop. And way we broke down the terminology for hip hop is because back in the early 70s, when we was on the corners and in backyards and basement parties and block parties and doing all of the aspects of the culture before it was a culture, which was rapping, rhyming, ticking, writing graffiti, you know what I mean, pop locking, and all the aspects of the culture, the older heads used to say, you brothers is hip. Right on, right on. So I got that term hip from that, and the word hop, because us inner city kids were so poor in New York and in Brooklyn back in that time back then, that we used to have to wait till the transit police wasn't looking to sneak on the trains. We had to hop over the turnstiles to go to the cipher meetings. You see what I mean? Cipher meetings meaning building in a cipher. You know, older heads would talk to us and tell us younger heads, which mean young men and young women, to how to be better men in our communities and our neighborhoods, as well as in our homes, without us taking offense like the kids would do today. If you try to tell them how to act right, they'll cuss you out. Some of them try to hurt you. So back then we had respect for adults. So that's where the term of hip hop came from. Pardon me.
Okay, all right. Interesting. You have paperwork. There has to be paperwork to show that. Why is
The paperwork comes in because the hip hop historians was in the park the day that I actually named it. And nobody knew that they would be hip hop historians today, but then they wasn't. Today they are. So they was there, and I didn't know they was in the park. But then when we met and we got to talking, and all the stuff came together, and they was there, and they started showing me the proof and the pictures and the stuff. I was like, wow, that's me. And then even DJ Flash, who was a program director up here in West Palm Beach. One day I was doing a show gearing up for Mar-a-Lago. I'm like one of the only African Americans to headline Mar-a-Lago. and I did that a couple of years ago. And while Trump actually was president, and I don't get caught up in people's political views or they religious views. I'm a professional. When you hire me to do my job, I come out and do my job. You know what I mean? Which is to entertain the masses, the crowds. So DJ Flash they was having a festival in downtown Miami, and he was part of the promotion team. So they have the big trucks out there with all the news media and all the stuff out there for these events. And it was me, Connie Francis from way back in the day, the Bob Hope days, where the boys are, a bunch of legendary people, Tito Puentes Jr., because I used to run with Tito Puentes Sr., his dad, before he passed away as a youngin'.
Wait a minute, I have to interrupt you. Did you know that I interviewed Tito Puentes Jr. earlier, like last year?
No, that's my homie. That's one of my friends.
2020. I can't remember. It's this whole these freaking years are going by fast. But yes, in 2020, I believe it was in 2020. I interviewed him in 2020.
Okay, but that's a good friend of mine. We cool now. He lives in Miami and not far away. That's a good friend. We do some shows together from time to time. And I was real good with his dad. His dad was one of the guys that actually, my very first song that I had ever did was a song called Esa Oca, Ale Huevo. And his dad was the one who introduced me to the Latin crowd in the Latin quarters in New York. So, when he ran out to me, I was walking by, they was taking me to the stage. I was getting ready to perform, and I was like next up, but somebody was like on stage ending their show, and I was coming. It was my turn to go up. So, and the crowd, they had just mentioned that we got the legend getting ready to come up. The guy that was performing was ending the show. I forgot which group it was. It was a major group, and they was done, and they was like, "We got the legend, the icon." They was talking about me. And they was like, "We got G-Man coming." So the crowd, making their noise, amping up. And then some guy out the corner of my eye, me being a bodyguard, I'm always watching my back. And somebody was running towards me. So I didn't know who this person was. So as a bodyguard, mentality-wise, I get into defense mode. So I turn at an angle so I can watch who's approaching me, but still keep it moving with the people that was taking me to the stage. And this guy approaches me and he said, G-Man. I said, hey, what's going on? He said, "You don't remember me, do you?" I was like, "No." He was like, "It's me, Flash, man, DJ Flash." I said, "DJ Flash? It don't ring a bell." And he said, "You gave me my first break on stage way back in it when I was a kid. Your DJ didn't show up, and I was a young DJ wanting to do this thing, and you gave me an opportunity to be your DJ on stage in New York when I was a kid. And the day that you named hip hop, you was." So I was like, "What? Are you serious?" And it was crazy because then all of a sudden now the affidavit from the hip hop historian, now him, collaborating with, doing the mindset that, confirming, it was confirmation. I'm like, wow, this is really getting out of hand. And I remembered what I did, but the fact that I didn't know nobody would be around who can confirm that they was there. Now I got multiple people confirming they was there that day, and now I realized there's a whole lot of people out here that has that same information. So the hip hop historians and the attorneys and everybody came up with the paperwork and notarized it, and everybody sent me this stuff, which I have now, the documentation. And it's crazy because in hip hop, there's so many stories of how hip hop started, where it came from. And lo and behold, the one person that was in everybody's face all that time saying, "Give me an opportunity, watch what I can do," and me getting on stage and performing what you see me perform before, have now came back to me and says, "Man, we did not know, man. If we only knew." See, the one thing I remember how my Lord and Savior always tell us: you never know when you're entertaining an angel or somebody that's very important. So be cordial to people. So all the people in Indianapolis that supported me and the ones that didn't support me and didn't want to give me a chance to perform, like all the promoters and all that stuff. Now, look where we at now. Ain't that something? I know you have to look at yourself and say, "Wow, I didn't have to do that to G." You know what I mean? I could have let him get on at that time. You know what I mean? But it's okay because God got it. And God got it.
That's so true. Amen. Let me tell you something about that. When one door closes, another one opens.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We don't worry about all the thousands of no's. It's the one yes from God that count.
Come on now. And now I didn't tell you on our previous conversation, off of the air. I did hear you on the radio one day here, on the late great Amos Brown show, I believe.
Ah, yeah, Amos.
Lunchtime. I was listening to it, and you broke it down.
Thank you, thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
man. Amos was one of the people that was real. He gave it to us, and I know everybody miss Amos. I miss him. I remember the first time I performed it for New Year's on a circle downtown, and Amos was the one of the guys that was like, you booking. They was telling the promoters. I forgot who the main promoter was for that. I forgot who that was, but he was telling them. Or if I did remember, I don't want to call names because I'm not trying to be disrespectful to nobody because I love all my peoples and I want to see everybody win. But Amos was the one guy that was like, you got G-Man right here, put him on. And he said, Friction, that's what he was calling me then. Friction, he got Friction right here, put him on. He was like, he can hold a crowd. If anybody can hold a crowd, you want to put him on. And we got all this dead air, you might as well put him on. So, but the point of the matter, I was already slated to perform, but the promoter did not want to pay me once I got there. So Amos Brown went to my defense and was like, "You got to pay that brother. Let him go." And I literally got up there and brought the house down. And it was so emotional because most of the promoters that was always giving me such a hard time happened to be there that day because they realized that not only was I an entertainer, I was a professionally trained bodyguard, which people remember that. And I was bodyguarding Marvin Harrison at the time, Reggie Wayne, and actually Amp Harris hired me to protect Reggie Wayne one time at the Hyatt Regency. So it was like when I say that, and shout out to Amp Harris because we actually ran into each other on the airport. You know, I think maybe 3 years ago we passed, and he's like, "What you been up to, man? I've been hearing things about you doing this and doing that." I was like, "Yeah, God is good." And he was like, man, only if we all knew who you really was. He was one guy that really said something, and that made me feel so much better. It was like, well, if we only knew who you was and what you meant to this culture, to that culture, hip hop culture, man, it could have changed things. But I was saying the caliber of a man from what he says, his mouth tells you who he want to be, but his actions tell you who he is. All you had to do was look at the actions that I had, and you knew who I was. And that's how I keep it because that lets me know that God is always in the mix. Look at me now, is I'm still on stage rocking concerts. Now I'm developing artists and teaching them the business. So God is good, you know.
Amen. Amen. I'm glad you mentioned that because that was one of the things I definitely wanted to make sure we get into. But let's talk a little bit about Indianapolis. And I know you and I talked off the air, but just briefly, as a person who did come from New York to Indianapolis, give me a little bit about what you thought when you came here, what Indianapolis was about regarding talent and how it could have opened up things for you versus when you left Indianapolis, and how did you feel about Indianapolis in their support of the city and their talent?
Well, I'm always have love for Indianapolis. Now, do I have some resentment feelings? I used to, but I don't anymore because the God in me won't allow that. But when I first went there, I came there and I was in high school, and that was in 80, I want to say 84, 85. And but yeah, it was around that time, and I lived on the south side in Clearstream Gardens, which was called Zunieville at the time. You know what I mean? And so I used to hang around in Barrington and Beach in what was it,
Yes.
Lawwood and Graveyard, and the list could go on and on. I could sit here and mention the places all day. And there was no rappers out there. It was guys that was trying to rhyme. When they heard me, it really moved people. So I started doing the Dust Bowls in Barrington. I started doing the Dust Bowl. I started doing Washington Park, and it started blowing people mind because they never seen it. They never seen nobody flowing like that. And remember, this is '80s, and Rappers Light had just came out in '79, less than 10 years, like 5, 6 years. So they never really seen nobody do it live. And me and a few of my buddies out there, Greg, was it Greg Smith? I think it was Jerry Smith or something like that, and a few other people that uh was able to do some rhymes. But when it came to really flowing, I was like one of the very few people that was doing it. And the only, if not in most of the city, that was actually rhyming and doing it. So when it caught on, then you couldn't tell nobody. Then I ran into my guy Charles Johnson. And how I ran into Charles Johnson, because I had left Indianapolis and I became and I became a part of Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. And I came back to Indianapolis on the Bobby Brown tour. You know what I mean? And I was actually in the group Rob Bass, and up in the stands and on the Jumbotron was a little crew doing a routine, pop locking and ticking on the Jumbotron, and it was Charles Johnson and his guys. You know what I mean? So me and Boo Boo was friends ever since. We just been tight ever since. And you know Charles, that's my guy. We call him Boo Boo, that's his nickname, but that's my guy. You know what I mean?
I know when I first heard you say that back in the day, I was like, what? Boo-boo.
Yeah, I mean, you don't call no man Boo Boo, but that was his nickname. You know what I mean? And his name was Charles Johnson. That's my bro. He's like a brother. Me, him, and Otto Duffy, and I can name so many people out there. That means a lot to me from Indianapolis. I got family out there, and I have a daughter that lives out there. My only biological daughter lives out there, and then because I've raised plenty of men, as women that's grown now from kids up, and it's just amazing. Indianapolis has a lot of memories. You know what I mean, that I go through, especially when I keep mentioning Bill Shirk. See, people don't understand how tight me and Bill Shirk really was. Which he's now in Hawaii. He owns a lot of gospel stations out in Hawaii now, and William Poor, man, that was his real name. You know what I mean? And I did the Funky 2 Minute Escape because he was an escape artist, and people didn't know that about Bill Shirk. And he used to own 96. You know what I mean? Bill was the Bill. He was the man, and that was one guy that I hold dear to my heart. And people used to be like, "That's a white guy, you're a black guy." It doesn't matter. That's a man, and he showed me more love than a lot of people that was around me every day. And not that he just showed me love, he gave me opportunities. And I actually wrote some of the biggest commercials for in Indiana. At the time, I wrote commercials for Crazy Mickey the Beeper King. If you could think back that day when it wasn't a lot of cell phones, it was just pages back then. You know what I mean? And so I go back. I got a history with Indianapolis that's very positive. You know what I mean?
Now, I appreciate that. Here on the Candy Show, when I talk to artists from Indianapolis, I always talk about what do they feel about the scene as far as this market being a market where you can break out and you can do your thing. Let's go back. Did you feel like that at the time when you left, that this was a city that could really get behind their artists or would really get behind their artists, and we could have blown at the time?
I think that they didn't know. They just didn't know. They did not know who they had, what they had around them, and because we was in a situation where we was pushed against each other, and it was like crabs in a barrel. Nobody wanted to see the next one make it. So a lot of hating would be going on, a lot of disrespect be going on, and people would get into disagreements and and problems. And I'm not the conflict type person. I like to resolve conflict, or I'll get away from it immediately. And you can have all of it. I don't got time for that craziness. So for Indianapolis can be something special if they would just start showing more love towards each other and stop hurting each other. And since that hurricane uh had went through that tore up everything, and it uprooted a lot of people from different cities, and everybody started moving to Gary, Indiana, Chicago, and Indianapolis, and all of this, and coming from New Orleans, you know what I mean, and when all the problems happened in Louisiana, it got worse. So the disconnects was even worse than it was in the beginning, because you got people of different calibers with a different mentality that had no love for Indianapolis, so, and and came to the city and really watered down the love that was somewhat missing as it is, as it was at the time. Indianapolis can really be something great because there's so much talent there. You got Brew, you got when I say Brew, I'm gonna say that's a friend out there that we did a Michael Jackson track together, and it's so crazy because there's so much talent there. I would love to come back and do some things with develop some of the artists and get them going, but they have to get their stuff together and be 100% seriously ready to work and move forward on a positive note and show each other love because no one outside is going to come inside a powder keg with the wick lit and short and try to help when people that live there need to help each other and show the outside that they do stand together. You know what I mean? And that's just it. We need unity in the community in that city.
I
You know
definitely
what I mean? That's the best way I can say it.
I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Let's talk a little bit about what else you have going on because you mentioned it again. So let's talk a little bit about what else do you have going on that you are contributing to the community when it comes to this music business or anything affiliated with the entertainment business, and how are you passing along the torch?
Well, developing artists, I teach them the business and the industry and the difference between the business and the industry. And just to say it like this, the industry gets you laid and the business gets you paid. Learn the business and you can control the industry. Get an artist developer that can develop you as an artist because you so they can open up doors and you'll learn to be more than just a rapper or a singer. Be an entertainer, which opens the doors for the entire business and industry structure. You know what I mean? Get with someone that knows this business that can guide you. Stop running out getting managers before you have anything to manage. Stop going to these recording studios and spending all your money in there and you don't have nowhere to take it to the next level. You know how many hundreds or thousands of people in the city that has songs that's been there for decades and can't get it to the next level. So where did all that money go? You see what I'm saying? You didn't make it. You didn't do nothing positive with The only people got rich was really the light companies that owns the light companies down there. You know what I mean? So when I say get that development, it's so important. And I can't push that in stress. And I used to talk about that down there. You need to be developed. You need to have someone that can really help you build your social equity and somebody that can show you and help you get your talent seen by the people that it needs to be seen by. It doesn't matter if it's seen by the masses if you can't create a residual income with it or a comfortable lifestyle for your family and your loved ones. So it doesn't that don't matter. So now you have to become a developed artist so that the doors can open up for you and you can take care of your community. See, I'm putting things together for entertainers in the hip hop community that retire or become older in the hip hop industry and they're not making no more money or they may have fell short and didn't become so prosperous where they could put in a monthly fee and then when they retire they got money they could draw on that on a like a hip hop social security if you will to help these artists and so they can have something because when you see some artists get done doing their songs or they don't have a song out they struggle so let's create something where these artists can draw on something monthly to take care of their family because they contributed to the culture. You see what I'm saying?
I can
So
see.
that's one of the big things I'm doing, and then also, you know, outside of developing artists and like I said, creating a financial program to help artists that are no longer successful or no longer have records out or no longer can entertain or perform. Uh, Also, creating programs where they can get in movies, soundtracks, TV shows, big things. It's a lot of things that can be done to help, but you got to be willing to help yourself for somebody to help you, and you have to be willing to invest in yourself for somebody to invest in you. And then remember this: if you want $1 million act like $100,000, look like $100,000. And if you want people to respect you, then you have to respect other people. Put the guns down and pick the love up. That's it.
I love that. I love that. Do me a favor. Can you do me a favor? Can you pick your phone up a little bit more so we can see you? Yes. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. I just got comfortable there. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's how it goes, especially when you know you're passionate about something. Nothing else matters.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
what you're delivering and how you delivering it. And that's how you know when people are passionate about certain things. Um, you're so right. We're missing a lot of artist development. But then at the end of the day,
Put the guns down and pick the love up.
and that's what
Indianapolis, Indiana. Put the guns down and pick the love up. And instead of running around talking about Black Lives Matters, this life matter, all lives matter. What matters is when somebody do something in your own community, that's when you should be outraged. And don't be outraged at the police for coming in to help or to solve what their job is to do. You should be mad and go after the people that's bringing this havoc in your community. This thing about talking about don't snitch, don't snitch. But as soon as somebody do something to your mama and your kids, you want retribution. Retribution is another way of snitching, because if you do retribution on somebody, you just told everybody who did it anyway, because you went after that person. So you like I said, Indianapolis is a city that I hold dear to my heart. You know what I mean? I do have a lot of stuff that goes on in the mindset, but Indianapolis have to put the guns down and pick the love up.
let's talk about what you also have going on musically. Now, I've noticed that the song that you sent to me, and I also noticed on your social media pages, you most definitely, as well as you've done this interview, you have referenced God. Tell me how important God is to you.
I mean, where would we be? Who would we be? What would we be if not for God? You know what I mean? You have to give it to God. If you don't give it, see, that's the other thing. See, when something goes wrong, when something is not right, the first thing somebody do is get frustrated and say, "Oh my God." So they curse God, and they don't realize they cursing God. They blaming him. They saying him. They say, "Well, I'm calling him." That's not how you call on God. The first thing is he said, make it plain. So you be like, help me, God, help us, God. That's making it plain. But when something bad going, you just say, oh my God, right there. You think you saying it's God. You ain't running around saying, oh devil, oh the devil. You saying, oh your God, oh my God, like it's your God's fault. So it's like you got to change the mentality of how you're doing things. You got to change the way things are being said. Stop giving the devil so much authority and so much props and power, and speak life into it by saying God, by using them. If you speak on them, even some people may not be 100% into it, but sometimes the more you speak on something, the more you talk on something, so it is. God say, if it's in the man's heart, then that's that man. If you can see it and you can dream it, you can achieve it. And if you put God first, believe me, if you put it, that when somebody gets you mad over something real silly like things, I don't care if it's drugs, I don't care if it's cars, I don't care if it's money, I don't care if it's women, I don't care. If someone crosses your path the wrong way and you stop for a second and you put down and you call on God, believe me, it's going to get handled, because the battle is not yours.
Amen.
You know what I
Amen.
mean? He tells you the battle is his. Give it to him. Let him fight the battle for you.
What
And
made
you will be around, the other people around, and your family will see you longer and be around you more. You got to put the guns down and pick the love up, period.
what made you go that route with your music? Because you're saying that same type of message, but you're able to come across with it in a positive manner. So what made you switch from that, from what you were doing previously to what you're doing now?
I've been the same way. You never really heard me on songs cursing and carrying on. I never did that. That's never really been me. You know, I may be trying to make a point and say a curse in a song, but it was either on the hooks to make a point, but it was never directed at nobody specifically. I never done that. So some people, like when you talk to somebody, you can be saying a curse, and you be cursing at the situation, and they saying, "Oh, Don't curse at me. Well, they're not cursing at you. They're cursing at the situation, not you, because they didn't say you are. They said it is. So the mindset of understanding, not saying that it's okay to curse. We're not saying that. So I'm not saying that it's okay to have a carnal mouth. That's not what I'm saying. But we're not perfect. No one is perfect. 1 minute a person can be very happy and talk all this good stuff about God, and the next minute they could be cussing you out. So what makes them better than you? Because it's conveniently for them to be less than holy, and then when you get at your end of your rope, you become less than holy, and they put you down and call you fake. How fake are you when you get mad and then you start cursing and carrying on? So we have to have a balance with each other and tolerance for each other, because no one's perfect. If we were all living in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to be having this conversation. So we're not living in a perfect world, and no one is perfect. So we have to work through our imperfections to become better at who we are and what we want.
Amen. Amen. Tell us a little bit about your song that you sent me. I enjoyed that because you were talking again about the message, and that was a deep message. But then you also had a female on there too. She was singing. Tell me a little bit about that.
Which song is that you talking about? The new one?
Yes, yes.
That song is called "Get It Together." You know what I mean? And on the hooks, you hear me saying, "We got to get us together." In the hooks, I'm saying we got to get us together, and get it together is the name of the song. It's called "Get It Together," and it's more conscious. It's about putting positive perspectives back in the music game, and it talks about political perspectives, social perspectives. It talks about education in it. It just talks about a variety of things that's not being dealt with in society today. It's being talked about, and everybody want to claim like that's what they want to do, but in actuality, no one's doing nothing about it. So we just decided to, and me, Resurgence of Sound is my new movement, and that's bringing back all the positive vibes back in entertainment, fun back in entertainment. You know what I mean? So and consciousness. If we like people name themselves like Little Killer, why would you name yourself something that's really demonic, uh, something very negative, something devilish? Why would you name yourself that? That's not cool. But and I'm not saying you don't have a right to do what you want to say, but name yourself something that has meaning, something that has a purpose, something that can be used to help build the kingdom as opposed to tear it down and destroy the kingdom. You see what I'm saying? So
Yes,
like
I agree.
I always said I don't chase orgasms with no disrespect. I chase lifegasms. You know what I mean? And I think on the other end of eternity, because the devil don't exist out there. It's all God, love, and fun, and peace, and joy, and happiness. And people like that's a perfect world. But when God get through cleaning this world up and the devil is gone, you're gonna have just that, a perfect world. Believe that.
Amen. Amen. I tell you, ooh, man, you just don't know. It's happening. It's coming. He's coming really soon. And we all need to make sure we need to get our house in order.
Yeah.
Let's tell everyone how they can reach you. If they want to be interested in any of your programs, wanted to listen to your music, check you out on your up and coming acting projects.
Well, you can always Google me at the original G Man of Hip Hop. That has everything there. Or you can contact the Candy Show if you're an artist and you're willing to be developed and you want to be get into this business and have an opportunity to really shine in your own lane and in your craft. Contact the Candy Show. She knows how to get you in touch with me, and it is a business. I created a 90-day curriculum. In the 90-day curriculum, it covers everything from your making sure you sign the ASCAP or BMI, your copyrights, your publishing, making sure that you know how to rock these stages, know how to rock the mic, rock the crowd. It teaches you etiquette. It teaches you the cultures. It teaches you to learn who you are as an artist and how to stay independent and create your own business and your own opportunities. And then it's also a way for me to give back to the community because the people that come through the Candy Show, you will qualify for a partial discount. And then when I say that, we're talking about a partial scholarship through the program. And the way it operates is you put a small deposit down and you pay the rest off weekly, bi-weekly, or once a month. This teaches you and it shows you where you came from and where you're growing. At any moment, you can stop if you think you're not getting nothing out of it. And trust me, I won't come after you for the balance of what you may owe from the balance, and because I'm not hungry or greedy like that. And no, I'm not gonna come after you and try to sue you, which legally I probably could, but I don't do that because you're my people's. But if you don't think you need it, neither do I. And then you can become a hindrance, and I'd rather you grow and glow. So when you come, if you have to come back, then I have to treat you a little different, meaning from a financial standpoint, because you just wasted my time, and I get paid for my knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and my time. You see what I'm saying? So if you come through the Candy Show and say, "Well, I seen the interview and I heard about you through the Candy Show," that's gonna help not just you as an artist and me as to help you go with some of the major artists that's already on the radio that I've developed up to this point. It'll also help the Candy Show because some of the proceeds will be donated to the Candy Show to help keep programs like this on the air.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mr. G Man. Now, I have to just, I'm gonna bring it in there though. What if someone doesn't look at the entire
On an
thing
interview.
and I have to be
So,
realistic now. Is there any other way that they can contact you? Can they look you up on Instagram, Facebook? Are you
yes,
on? Okay.
Instagram is G Man for real. On Facebook is GEE, capital G, small e space, capital M, small a, small n, G Man, GEE man on Facebook, which you probably can't get in because it's up to the third page and it's over 5,000 on each one of them already. But you can, like I said, if you Google me, you can always reach out to me. You know what I mean? And you can reach me that way. You know what I mean? I got it. I got all the social medias, but they all, once you Google me, they're all right there. You know what I mean? And that just keeps it simple.
All righty. Okay, I'm telling you a little bit about this now. Hold on. Looking at the movie, I saw some of your bodyguard skills. I saw you doing your thing. I saw you doing your thing. But those who are listening and paying attention to this interview, you have to go to Tubi, and that's Mad as
Or
Hell.
Hulu. You can go to Hulu, Prime Video, uh, Tubi. It's on all of the streaming platforms now. You know,
Well, that
and the
is
movie is called Mad as Hell. And
and
it's actually a bunch of corrupt cops in the movie. So that just gives you a little idea of why I'm doing damage.
and you doing a lot of different kind of damage. I seen it. All right, guys. Mr. G Man, I thank you so much for your time today. I totally support you, always have, always will be. And listen, when you coming up to Naptown sometime soon, make sure you hit me up, okay?
Okay, and I'll be the nap. They're trying to put some stuff together, and then maybe some of y'all promoters out there put together a weekend seminar or something, so I can get some of you artists, new artists in there, and be able to let y'all get an opportunity, and some of these opportunities that are out here for y'all.
And only if they're serious. If you're serious
Exactly.
and if you're dedicated, then make sure you attend. But other than that, just don't have time for it. I'm just gonna say that because I know I
And
don't have
y'all reach
time for
out
all
to the
that
Candy
mess.
Show. Make her put together something out there. You never know. It could be a big deal.
You never know what's cooking, so you gotta stay tuned to the Candy Show. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining another episode of the Candy Show. And Mr. G Man, I'm gonna see you soon.
All right, deuces, sweetie. God
God
bless you.
willing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you. Bye bye.